Well, there he is from Montreal.
Or Montreal, either one. That's where I'm from right now.
Parlez-vous français? Oui? No?
I'm learning a lot of French this week.
Yeah. Have you had the poutine? Have you had the poutine?
I once went to a wedding in Kingston, and I had poutine then for the first time, but I'm supposed to go out for some tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. It's a good mix of the things that I like. So,
you said it's 55 and cold there, right? It's Montreal.
Yeah. Today's going to be the worst day, which is fine because we're not playing matches today, and it's little off and on rain and 55 degrees. It's brisk.
What's the course like? Talk about the ferry situation.
Oh, the ferry. So,
is that going to be a disaster?
I've got ferry video. I'll have to send you from this morning. But every day I take the ferry to and from the island, and Royal Montreal is on an island, and there's one bridge on and off. So I purposely stayed near the ferry, which takes 6 cars over at a time in each direction. It's probably 50 yards wide, the river at that point, and that's how I get here. So you drive your car onto this barge, and you ride it across the river, and it goes in both directions, and they just take 6 cars back and forth all the time. It's pretty good operation. It's 10 Canadian. I think of it like tolls, the American side, and it's actually a lot of fun. I'm getting to know the barge operators very well. The woman
wait a second. But they got you have to leave the island once you're done the round. There's nothing on the island to stay at or do, right?
Correct. There's no hotels out here. You could have an Airbnb, I guess, but all the teams and everything are staying in downtown Montreal, and most of the media is staying either in downtown Montreal or by the airport or up where I am, which is an area called Laval, which is just north of here. And
so fans take the ferry too?
There's no charter bus that can go on the barge. There's one bridge on and off the island. So every day they're going to get 25,000 fans, plus volunteers, plus officials, plus media, plus players on and off this island with one bridge. Good luck.
So they walk the bridge, or I should be more familiar with this.
I mean, I guess you could, but the bridge is probably 3 miles from the golf course. So I don't know. I mean, where people are parking, they are telling them that general parking, it's a 40-minute bus ride over to the course.
Wow.
And in true major event fashion, they're doing construction right on the highway near the bridge. So
that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people to cross on a barge.
I take the ferry. Okay. I take the road less taken. It's made all the difference. Yeah, I'll send you some footage of the ferry. You can do what you want with it. Maybe I'll put it in the Discord. Everyone would love it.
Yeah, we'll put a section on the website for ferry talk.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty fun.
All right, so talk about the course. I think Scheffler said it was pretty straightforward and easy. I think you used the word easy, but he said it's like nothing to him.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely going to be set up for scoring. I think they would like to see as many matches get deep into the golf course as they can, because the final 5 holes have water on them. So that could be pretty entertaining for everyone to watch, especially when you start looking at 14, 15, 16, that little stretch right there. Water is very much in play.
Right.
And if you're playing foursomes or alternate shots, somebody hits into the water off the tee where the water is in play off the tee. And on 10 too. I mean, that hole's essentially over. So it's interesting. The par 70, 7,200 yards, no big deal.
But it's also like the course in France, right? Royal.
No, it's not like Le Golf National. It's nowhere near as positional as that.
But with water, right? Some boomer bust holes or no?
Yeah, they had water there in France, but I would say this is much more like a Parkland style American par 70 golf course like we're used to. It's just not super, super long. I mean, a majority of their approach shots are going to come from between 140, 160 yards. I mean, they could set this place up to score, and I think that would be the best way to do it. I think that helps both teams, really.
what kind of what kind of scoring though? With your putter or with off the tee or just irons? Or just...
Putter for sure. I mean, the green complexes are awesome. Dick Wilson Golf Course, 1959. Reese Jones redid it right before they had the first President's Cup here in 07. But he only, did his usual bunkering and massage some fairways. The greens themselves are pretty characteristic of what they were when they were built back in 59 by Wilson. And, those were his drinking days. So you get some pretty cool putting surfaces here. They've got some shelves to them and they've got some little outcroppings. I like it. The golf course is good.
Yeah. Here's what I've heard so far is that the international team unity is the best Adam Scott's seen in his 22 years of doing this, and which is typical for that because they want to beat the USA, right? I mean, Canada loves beating the USA, even though Canada is very much weaved into USA culture and they love USA golfers. They would love nothing more than to beat the USA at something on their home soil. So there is a lot of bounce to that, and you'll see that this week, especially with so many Canadian golfers on that side. Have you gotten any of the culture elements both from the USA side or the international team side and said, you see it yet? Is USA thinking they can walk here and just
USA seems very much like this is what we do. We do it every year, and you guys don't, right? Because if it's not a Ryder Cup year, it's a President's Cup year. So these guys seem pretty transactional in the way they approach this. They're all starting to get very close because Xander, Scotty, this is the core of your teams for the next 10 years, and it has been for the last 3 or 4 years, right? So Patrick, Colin, these guys are going to be around a little bit. Finau's been around for some time on and off teams. But for the most part, your core is the same, and it looks as if Jim Furyk has taken a very business-like approach to what's going on here. On the other side, it's a huge challenge for the internationals to come together. And it really started about 15 years ago when Ernie Els created the Shield and the black and gold color story, and they built a brand for themselves. Because you have South Koreans, you have Australians, you have Canadians, you have South Africans, you have you could have South Americans when Mito and Joaquin were playing. So you have all of these different cultures. Now I get Europe has a bunch of different cultures, but for 100 years they've been doing the Ryder Cup, so they figured out a unity. They figured out that flag, the blue and yellow, and all of that. They built that, and it's there, right? And the first 14 of these Presidents' Cups, it's gone 12-1-1. We tied in 03 and we lost in 1998, but nobody was on that team that went to Australia. So they really still think they need to win one of these to be super relevant. So when Els created that brand, that unity behind the Shield, that was about 12 to 15 years ago. And then, he carried it on in 19. Immelman carried it on in 22. And now it's Captain Mike Weir's job to do the same thing. These guys, they're tired of getting just waxed all the time, right?
Yeah, Ernie Els talked about how he drew from the Special Forces. I don't know where in the Special Forces, but design me a shield that represents this unity that we want to go and attack. And I think personally, I think that this is their best opportunity to win. I do.
On the road, they've been close. Melbourne, they were close. And then before that, South Korea, they were leading going into singles, right? So they've been close on the road. At home, it's just tough. We've seen that in the Ryder Cup too. It's tough. And because the PGA Tour owns both sides of this, they tend to set up the golf course pretty neutral. It's not so much like the Ryder Cup where the European Tour sets it up at home to really bother the Americans. We set it up polar opposite of that. So you get a pretty neutral playing field here. And I really think it goes back to your question about culture. I think that Mike Weir is every ounce of what he's doing this week is focused on that culture and bringing the globe together. And the guys look like they're having a very good time on that side, and it's typical of what you see in a Ryder Cup where the U.S. is all business and this is what we do. And then on the other side, it's all, they're chanting songs and Olé and blah, 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 whatever the international chant is, but yeah.
If you look at the international side, and we're talking about this from a DraftKings standpoint, hashtag DraftKings partner.
Yes.
They the international side historically uses their top guys a lot more in every match than the USA does.
Yeah.
Specifically, Tom Kim, who I think is the best option for a captain in DraftKings lore. Kim, Adam Scott, and Hideki. Like, there's no shame in using them for 5 matches.
Yep.
Whereas, and even Siwoo Kim, I think he played 4 last time out. And Hughes may be a dark horse here. If Hughes starts off great and putting great, and because he's a dog, he can putt some of the best short game in the world. It's on his home soil, and he like, again, he's a fighter. The Americans, though, typically use it more sparingly, and I don't know. And the bench seems to be not as deep as it has been in the past because Homa's not playing great. Finau's been kind of somewhere. Keegan's playing as a captain, but they're going to play these guys. Do they think to placate the, I don't know, say ego of USA, but they know they have to share equity here in terms of matches and not just have guys play one. So that's the big thing with DraftKings this week and DFS is who is going to play the most, right? Start there.
Yeah.
On the international side, I think those guys play 5 matches. 3 or 4 guys will.
So the path to victory for the international side lies in the fact that the U.S. tends to overthink these pairings, right? And we could see already with the 2 practice round days and with the interview schedule that really doesn't look like Xander and Patrick are going to play together. Doesn't look like that at all. And that to me already is like, okay, first of all, Xander, Patrick, Colin, and Scotty should play 5 times, period. And stop.
Yeah.
And why won't they?
Out of those 4, who do you think would play the 5? If you had one guy play 5 times, who's it going to be?
Ooh.
No, who do you think they'll choose to be?
Patrick.
Patrick can't lay 5 times over Xander?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But I would say that's basically toss of a coin, to be honest with you, And the reason I say that is because you could basically pair those 2 guys with anybody. And Patrick Cantlay's record in these team matches is very, very good. His singles record is better than Xander's. So I give the edge to him just because he just wins more. He just does, So I think he's a great captain's choice where you're going to spend 1.5 times for those other guys. They're just become way too expensive, right? So I think on the other side, I think a great captain's choice is because he's played twice in these. He's played 10 matches. So his track record is, and Im's, again, it comes down to versatility. So like when you're talking about like captain's picks, like who's going to play a lot, like further down the board, you're looking for a guy like Siwoo Kim. And why do I pull out Siwoo? Because Siwoo he's a perfect foursomes partner because he puts the ball in the fairway. He's an incredible ball striker. All right. And he'll make pars. He doesn't make enough birdies when we bet him, but he makes a ton of pars. Right. And that's a good thing in foursomes. But then you could flip him and you could put him with a really, really stable guy. Like a guy that's really good, like a Hideki, like a Tom Kim, right? And then now all of a sudden you could play him in 4-ball, so you could conceivably see him as a captain's choice out there at least 4 times, and that's what you're looking to try to predict.
Because Siwoo Kim will either triple bogey or eagle. I mean, he's just that guy.
Which in match play is why he's one of 3 guys on their side that has a winning record, and he's only one of 2 guys, he and Sanjay, that has a winning record that's been in the President's Cup more than once. Mm-hmm. Seabez has technically a winning record. He's 1-0-1, and he was there in Charlotte. But, I mean, Kim and Sanjay, Siwoo and Sanjay, those are 2 guys you can really rely on to play a lot of formats, and that's what you're looking for on the American side. Who can play all the formats? I mean, Russell Henley keeps playing with Scotty, right? So that's got to be Scotty's foursomes partner at the very least. Okay, wow. So now all of a sudden you're going to put Henley with the number 1 player in the world. If Scotty's hitting from the fairway where Russell's going to put him, for all those approach shots from 150 to 140 yards, he's at gap wedge to 10 feet all the time. Russell can make a couple of those putts. Yes, and I know you love Mac Hughes, but he's going to be putting from 30 feet. And he's only going to make so many of those. And Russell's going to make more from 10. He's just going to. And so like Sam Burns probably going to play with Patrick Cantlay, it looks like. And maybe 4-ball with Scotty because they've been in the same group together. But like Burns would be another guy as a captain's pick that's further down the board that's going to be cheaper on DraftKings that I would be leaning on. Now, he might be popular and Siwoo Kim not as much. I don't know. I mean, you guys look at the ownership and everything, but like you have got to look for versatility down the board. Tony Finau can play both formats, right?
Yeah.
Keegan Bradley has proven over time he can play both formats. Remember,
because they neutralize Tony Finau's blow-ups. That's his biggest problem is that, he exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Finau is a perfect stand-in for anybody that needs a foursomes partner. He's one of the best 3-ball strikers on the PGA Tour behind X-Man and Scotty, right? Like he's just going to put the ball in play the whole time. He's going to put it out there deep, right? So you give him a Morikawa or a Xander or somebody like that can really score. I mean, that's a tough. And again, remember the format of the President's Cup. The first day you get 5 4-balls on Thursday. Friday, you're going to get 5 foursomes. You could only sit 2 guys. So if you got guys that are really struggling, like a Max Homa, are you going to sit them both those first 2 days when only 2 guys are sitting? You're probably going to have to go out and expose those guys, right? There's only 2 guys sitting from each side in those first 2, and then you get to Saturday and it's four matches, and then you got all 12 playing on Sunday. But like when you start to think of DraftKings, think about the versatility of the guys you're picking. If you're picking Mac Hughes, who would be a terrible foursomes player, right? Probably not going to play more than 3 times. 4-ball singles, right? Siwoo Kim, could play 4 times and then the singles. So you just have to think about those things when you're putting a lineup together.
The 2 international guys that get the ball closest to the hole from approach are going to be Im and Hideki, especially if they're on, right?
Well, I mean, Adam Scott's strokes gained approach is like really, really good over the last. I mean, what was he, 2nd at Scottish Open, 10th at Royal Troon? He was runner-up in BMW. I mean, he's been great lately, Adam Scott. He could have his best President's Cup ever at 44 years old. And he's been practicing with Minwoo, and he's been practicing with Pendrith.
So they're playing 5 matches, 4-ball and foursome on Thursday and Friday.
Yes. 5 4-ball, which is 4 balls in play, better ball partners on Thursday. Friday is alternate shot, 5 matches.
And Ryder's 4 and 4, right?
And they're both together on Friday and Saturday, and and then they go 4 and 4 on Saturday, 4-ball in the morning, foursomes in the afternoon, and then 12 singles on Sunday.
Well, who sits then? Who sits Thursday, in your opinion? International side and then USA side.
I mean, looking at these pairings that they've been doing, the U.S. has had the same foursome pairings for 2 days in a row, right? So the first day is 4-ball, and you've got Scheffler and Henley and Cantley and Burns playing together. You've got Morikawa, Theegala. I see that pairing, okay? You've got Xander and Tony. I see that pairing,
too. I love that pairing.
Okay? Then you've got Clark and Captain Keegan, and then you've got Homa and Harmon. I could see the first day Homa and Harmon sitting out. And although Max, I think, with the way he's hitting the driver, he's not a very good foursomes pick. He's had more foursome success than 4-ball success, even though he's had a lot of success. He's 7-1-1 in 2-team matches. He's had a lot of success. Homa and Harmon played together in Rome, and they did okay as a foursomes tandem. So I think they go in as foursomes on Friday, and then somebody else sits. I mean, that's just based on what I'm looking at when they go out and play.
I agree. I think Finau Xander team could be a force.
Oh, I mean, because they could go both ways, right? Like they could definitely take care of some people,
And Finau's being overlooked, and he's cheap.
Well, I think that they're the trend that I'm seeing by these modern captains is that they're also building for the future as they do this, right? And they need to get some of these young guys like Theegala, like guys with less experience, like Finau, with some seasoned veterans. And they seem to be doing it that way. Morikawa with Theegala, right? Xander with Tony. You've got Scotty with Henley. You've got Patrick with Burns. So, you've got a guy that's been on the teams for a while. He's taken his little partner around. Maybe they're 2-man pods rather than, 4-man pods or whatever it may be. But they seem pretty strict to these things. And, I mean, could you imagine Scotty and Henley? It would be every analytics
dream.
Geek's dream. foursomes team. Be incredible.
Keegan's got to sit himself Thursday or Friday, right? You don't think he sits himself out of the gate? You think he plays out of the gate?
Well, he's not a vice captain. He has no duties. Mm-hmm. Brant Snedeker replaced him, so Keegan's just here to play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, Keegan's got a really good team record. Last time he played in the President's Cup, he played 5 matches. He went 2-2-1, and he was a great partner with Phil. So you could see him and Wyndham Clark together because Wyndham Clark's like a Phil, right? Just lets it rip, and then he's a great putter and scorer.
Yep.
So
great wedge player. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you've got a guy like Keegan that's going to be super steady, and then when Wyndham on each 9 goes for like 4 holes where he goes like birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie, you're like, okay, now that's how you win matches, and that's why those types of pairings really fit. So, I definitely see a much clearer path to what's going on the American side than I do the international side. But the international side has a lot of 4-ball players and not a lot of foursomes players. So foursomes is going to be rough for them on Friday and then closing Saturday. It's going to be rough for them. If they could do some damage there, they're on the path to success for sure.
The international side, who sits first day? Ben on Pendrith?
Well, okay. We're talking 4-ball.
Right.
They seemed – here's the way they sat today. It looked like Connors and Hughes were together, so that's a 4-ball team. And if I was Weir, I would put him out first. Mm-hmm. It's Canada. You need the crowd on your side. Corey is the guy. He is the best Canadian player that's here. He needs to play 5 matches, and he needs to play well. No one has more pressure on them this week. There's more pressure on Corey Connors.
You think Corey's playing 5 if he starts well?
I mean, again, all of this is with the caveat that they're actually winning points, right? And they don't have to pull these guys. But like, how do you not get Corey Connors, the best Canadian in Canada, playing 5 matches? Yeah. I mean, that seems more obvious than playing Scotty 5 times.
Only if Hughes smashes, which I believe he can. I just believe he
as will. A 4-ball, yeah. Especially with Corey, who's so steady, and they'll have the crowd. I mean, imagine if on Thursday those 2 go out first in a 4-ball match, and they get, I don't know.
You think they're paired? You think they're paired, Hughes and Connors?
They played together today.
Okay.
That to me is a great. And then they were with Hideki and Sanjay, and that's another great pairing for 4-ball.
Oh my God!
Right, and then the next group was Adam and Taylor. Okay, that to me seems more like a foursomes type of, but like at the same time, I could see them playing 4-ball. Maybe I wouldn't put Taylor Pendrith in foursomes. I might put him in 4-ball, and then you've got Ben On and Siwoo Kim that were together. And then the last group was Minwoo and Jason Day, which makes sense. You got Jason to to oversee the kind of young swashbuckling Australian, and then the other one was Tom Kim and Seabez were kind of together. Now, again, I'm guessing who was kind of with whom. They were playing matches against one another, so that's kind of like what I saw, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just trying to do the math of what I think is going to happen. 10, 13, 14. Okay. Where do you have this winning at? Because I just did the math on it.
Yep.
I think the international team will keep it close. It was 17.5, 11.5, 12.5 in 2022.
Yeah.
I think it gets closer this year.
That was a bad international team. There were some bad selections there. So there were some guys left off that team that shouldn't have been. And then you had guys like Taylor Pendrith and Corey Connors go 0-4-0, and that'll kill you, right? Yeah. Corey Connors, ranked top 30 in the world, can't go 0-4-0 in these matches. That's your bread and butter of somebody that can play both styles, both formats, and is an incredible ball striker. I think you're looking at like a 16-14. I think it's really close.
I have it 16.5, 13.5.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think at the most you get 17, 13, but I think 4 points to win is just too much.
Yeah, I think they start out great. I think international start up big, like 3.5, 1.5 day one, or in 4 balls.
Yeah, could be. They'll have a lot. There'll be a lot of. The Canadians have been showing up, and it's a miserable day today, and there's tons of fans here, so the problem is going to be the big key moment is that they get destroyed in foursomes, and they have 5 of those matches to survive on Friday.
Yeah.
And that'll be a huge moment going into Saturday because let's say they split 2.5 on Thursday, and then they go 4-1. You can't get away from that now. There's too many good Americans.
But Canadians get really jazzed up when things of notoriety come to their country, and they don't they don't know how to contain themselves or handle themselves. And you get a lot of drunk Frenchmen at this event. This Canadian crowd's going to be fucking wild. I
100% expect this to be like the RBC Canadian Open times 10.
Yes.
Times 10. I fully expect. Yes.
And I think it's gonna cause. I think they're gonna lean into can't lay a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's that part of it is. And I think there's gonna be a lot of complaining about it, and the fans are gonna get rowdy. They're fucking Canadian hockey fans. They're rowdy. They're just. They're wild.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a big part of this that will help the internationals a little bit. I still probably think if they don't have the firepower to beat them, it'd be tough.
The path to
singles matches will be tough.
Well, but the internationals actually have a very good record against the U.S. in singles versus the Ryder Cup, which the European team gets destroyed all the time in singles. It's the foursomes that is the biggest problem, which is interesting because we struggle in foursomes against Europe. But if you're Captain Mike Weir, you need the 3 Canadians to show up because they are the key to the crowd. If they are winning points, the crowd will be
fucking nuts.
They'll be uncontrollable, and it will start to put a lot of pressure on the American side. And the Americans already feel pressure for Bethpage Black. You better believe it, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine the pressure that would be on that core group of guys if for some reason they lose this week and they have to go next September into a Ryder Cup against Europe at Bethpage Black in New York City, right? Those guys know that's coming, right? So if you could get the Canadian 3 to play above their ceiling, right? And you can get the crowd into it. And then you take your thoroughbreds, those 4 guys at the top, right? Adam, Hideki, Im, Sungjae, and Tom Kim, and you play them 5 times, right? And they all get about 3.5 points. Man, you're going to be tough to beat.
Right.
You know,
they get one of these Canadians to come up like Hughes, who's like a scrappy left winger. He's a dog. I mean, he's if he starts he loves the crowds. If he starts performing well early, just look out.
If you could get 6 or more points out of the Canadian 3, they've done their job. I mean, it's hard to get points, right? If you could get 6.5, 6, 7 points out of those 3 Canadians, man, you're going to be super live because you know that guys like Tom Kim and Sungjae and Hideki are going to get their fair share, right? Yep. And you need 15.5 to win. There's 30 points in play.
And maybe Adam Scott, who's actually still playing at a high level right now.
Very high level. And, I keep saying this. People keep saying, like, what does Mike Weir need to do as a captain? I said he needs to message to these guys that they need to play as many holes as possible. Now, I know that sounds strange, but like if there were 3, if one of these matches is 3 down at the turn, they need to get it to the 17th hole. They need to get it to the 18th hole. You just need to keep the Americans playing because the more they play as the favorite, the more they're going to get nervous. Their goal is to make it end by Saturday night, right? They are that good. There are 10 guys of the 12 are ranked in the top 20 in the official World Golf Rankings. Right. This team is loaded. There's 5 in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? They're average.
No Thomas and no Spieth.
Well, I mean, that ship may have sailed.
Yeah.
Maybe not for JT, but Spieth for sure. But like you look at this core group of guys. The core four have to play. Patrick, Colin, Xander, and Scotty. They got to go 5 times. They can't. Furyk can't be farting around with like, oh, we're going to fatigue factor in this. That's a bunch of bullshit. You have got to play. You got to play.
You got to play Scotty and
play.
Xander every fucking round.
Oh, and Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick is a workhorse in these things. The guy gets a bad rap for being like super self-centered and everything and coming across like really vanilla and tough to root for and everything. But everybody talks about Max and Rome being, the gladiator, right? Cantley was the one, if you go back, that took on the crowd and Rory and those guys and kept winning matches when he was paired with like Wyndham Clark. And Wyndham Clark wasn't even there except for his mouth.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
No, he's a serial killer. Right.
And Cantley is a freaking dog, man. And I just, maybe they're smart to split up him and Xander because they are so good and that elevates other people.
Yeah. I think Canada is just a different animal here in that even though, again, like I said, there's sort of an interwoven culture between USA and Canada loves all USA stuff, whether they like it or not, American sports, American athletes, American music. Canada hates being little brother to the USA. They hate it. They fucking hate it. They hate losing at everything. They hate getting, a tenth of the medals at the Olympics. This is so much different on this soil. I'm fucking telling you, especially with 3 Canadian golfers there. That and the comments from Scott and Immelman and Mike Weir, who said this is the best team unity they've ever seen in their history.
Well, they should say that because that's how you build team unity. Is it in front of the camera?
Which
say all
Americans
the right things.
Never seem to have that team unity. I just don't like. They just
because we're Americans, right?
Yeah.
That our whole culture is me, right? It's capitalism. Yeah. It's built on that. Up here, it's just a different way of life.
Like we gotta unify to beat these Americans. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the world versus us. When Furyk said it, it's true. It is the world versus us. And
I think International is going to win. I'm saying that right now.
It's going to be a tall order. I mean, some of these things I'm saying that they need to do. Now, go back to 2007, and this is important for the DFS players. Right. So either earmark this thing or whatever you do on YouTube, or bring it up in Discord, but tell them that in minute 32, minute 33, right? Yep. Keith went back. He went in the time capsule with Doc Emmett Brown, okay? And we went back to 2007, the last time that it was here. The President's Cup was here at Royal Montreal Golf Club, okay? The leading point getters on the U.S. side, take a guess. You got a team with Phil. You had Tiger. You had a stacked 07 American squad. You had Furyk, right? Okay. Who had 4.5 points? I'll give you the point total. Who had 4.5 points for the U.S. side?
Phil.
Nope. Phil had 3. Tiger had 3. Stricker had 3. Furyk had 3. David Toms had 4.5 points. Okay. Gets better. Scott Verplank had 4 points. All right. Scott Verplank also won a Canadian Open at Royal Montreal Golf Club. Okay. Mm-hmm. One step further. International side. Mike Weir had 3.5 points. Ernie Els had 3 points. Those 4 guys, Els, Weir, Toms, and Verplank, were fairway hitters, right? They were plotters, right? Yeah, Ernie had power and everything, but Ernie was really good with that.
Tom's never missed a fairway in his life.
Right? Okay. So, and
Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim.
So, Siwoo Kim, Tom Kim, Keegan Bradley. I mean, these types of guys have a very good chance, if history repeats itself, Corey Connors to be the star of this thing. On the American side, somebody like a Brian Harmon could be. It could be Russell Henley. It could be Keegan Bradley. These guys that hit fairs certainly could be Scotty, but that would be the Tiger story, right? And it wasn't that way in 2007, and we won by 5 that year. And 8.5 points came from Scott Verplank.
I just like the American.
David Toms.
I like the international team more right now. I like both Kim hit every fairway. Matsuyama hits a fairway. Sanjay Im hits fairways.
I mean, I agree with you.
Hits fairways.
I agree with you, but statistically, right? For hitting fairways on the PGA Tour, okay, the U.S. side is much better than the international side.
Did you include Wyndham Clark in that?
I did.
Did you include Max Homa in that?
I did. Wyndham Clark, 145th ranked on the PGA Tour. Max Homa, 132nd ranked on the PGA Tour.
What about Thigala?
Okay?
What about Thigala?
All right. Thigala, 92nd. But here's the problem, right? All the rest of those guys hit a ton of fairways. Our average ranking amongst the 12 guys is 68th on tour. It's 85th for the internationals. We are better at hitting fairways, right? And that's what's going to be a problem on the foursome side, because guys like Pendrith, on Hughes, you're talking about guys that are. How do you make five foursomes pairings on Friday? Mm-hmm. And if 2 or 3 of those teams are weak and you go down 4-1, that 3-point gap will probably be the difference come Sunday.
I'm telling you, international teams winning 15.5, 14.5. You mark it right here. We'll timestamp this at 6:01, 36 minute, 12 seconds. Even though full America, flag wearing, eagle eye, laser eagle rider ghost jam says USA.
Hey, 36-30, mark this down. Canada doesn't win cups. They don't win Stanley, and they sure are not winning this thing. Okay? Those are facts. They're raw and they hurt.
Medication.
But that's the truth. That's the truth. I was on Edmonton Sports Radio this morning, and I told Dave Schlenko, I said, hey, buddy, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you guys don't win cups.
You calling Canada gutless?
No, I'm not calling you gutless. I'm just telling you.
Keith Stewart, 3650, called Canada gutless.
No. What it comes down to is that this is a 4-day marathon of matches, and the American side is much deeper. Now, we've explained 4 major keys to the international path to success, but those are above their ceiling. You
Americans just are not good at losing.
Because we don't lose.
Oh, that's it. That drives Canadians nuts.
I mean,
there's gonna be a lot of drunk Canadians on that ferry.
I'm gonna go back to my hotel room tonight and watch the South Park movie. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I'm not your friend, pal. I'm not your pal guy. All right.
I mean, look, Ghost Jam knows. He's not jammed up about this.
Yeah, because he's been here since the fucking revolution. His family. All of you have 400-year.
Wait, by the way, Revolutionary War.
What?
That was our first win, 1-0. Okay, just saying. All right,
you're 1-0.
Yeah,
be 1-1 on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
All right, brother.
I'm not so sure. What else you got for me? Anything?
That's it. I got to roll.
All right.
Take the ferry. Be good. Watch out for Canadians. Be nice to them.
We doing the chicken championship next week?
Oh, yeah. It's the greatest. The Sanderson Farms?
Yeah, baby.
The greatest.
All right. Well, if I make it back across the border, I will see you on Wednesday in the Discord.
If you need help, let me know. I got connections.
All right. I appreciate it.
Later.